During the time Olympic was dismantled, a lot of her fittings were purchased and installed into a paint factory in a small town called Haltwhistle. Based in Northumberland, the locals call it the centre of England. The bulk of these fittings remained installed at the site until 2004. We would like to share with you this unique story about this little town and its connection to the Titanic story. Just prior to the RMS Olympic being dismantled, everything that was reusable was available for purchase at an auction held on board the ship. One company that attended this auction was some of the founding members of a paint factory based in Northumberland in rural England. They spent £800 on 400 lots. The company was called Smith & Walton, producers of Hadrian paints named after the Roman wall. Thomas Walton and Douglas Smith vested most of their capital into the start-up of this company. Building commenced in 1931, and by 1932 the first materials were being produced. By 1934 and 1935 demand for their products had increased, and they decided to expand the business and add an office block, boardroom and canteen. The directors decided to build a shell out of the traditional materials and repurposed the timber and the fittings being stripped out of the Olympic, which was being dismantled on Tyneside. Within 1 year, the boardroom, sales office and Olympic Hall were all in operation. The canteen, known as Olympic Hall, was fitted out with an ornate ceiling, which came from a first-class smoke room, and the ornamental light fittings came from the first-class lift foyers. The walls were fitted with a beautiful English oak wall panelling, also salvaged from the ship. The staircases that led to the offices came from the second-class areas of the Olympic, and the most impressive area was the boardroom, which had lots of ornate mouldings and built-in oil paintings, and also was fitted with more of the English oak wall panelling. During the 1980s, interest in the Titanic and all things connected to it increased, but it wasn't until the production of James Cameron's film, Titanic, that interest in the story became fever-pitched, and it wasn't uncommon for the paint factory to receive visitors from all over the country and abroad to pop in to see the fittings. Some years later, the factory was taken over by businessman Ray Cowell. During this time, paint products were no longer being produced, and Ray decided to make the site available to other small businesses for lease. Ray's plan for the Olympic Hall was to turn it into a craft centre, so he commissioned 2 feasibility studies to see if it would sustain itself. After the study, the results showed that it wouldn't get enough people through the door to cover the costs of heat, light and power, so Ray looked into other options. Around this time, an auction house contacted Ray and asked him if he would be interested in selling the RMS Olympic fittings in an auction held on site. Ray thought about it for a while and decided to go ahead with the sale. The auction house came out and made a full inventory of the items, and the auction was held in 2004. There were a lot of unique items from the Olympic, which were built into the factory. Ornate light fittings, cabin doors, beautiful wooden mouldings are just to name a few. During the strip out of the wall panels, Ray found a lot of the Olympic's wooden decking, which was used under the oak and mahogany panels inside the walls, and had never been seen since 1935. The auction was a huge success. People came from all over the country to attend, all wanting their own little piece of the sister ship to Titanic. The items that didn't sell were too big, like a lot of the large panels, which Ray decided to keep once the auction was complete. Ray, who was also a master woodworker, decided in his retirement that he could find a good use for this unsold material. Over the recent years, Ray has made many unique and original items from this Olympic wood. He has said that by doing this, everyone at home and abroad interested in Titanic and all things connecting to it could have their own little piece of history to keep. Some of these items have reached countries like Australia, USA and Russia, just to name a few. Sometimes you will see these items pop up on eBay for sale. A couple of Ray's finest woodworking pieces were 3 electric guitars, which were commissioned by Robert Martin, the producer of this film. Ray worked closely with luthier Tom Johnson on creating these guitars. They are based on the classic Fender Telecaster shape. There will only be 3 of these unique guitars built, which will honour the 3 sister ships, Titanic, Olympic and Britannic.